Now, joining me in the studio is our senior editor, Surya Gangadharan. Surya, what were some of the key takeaways for you from Prime Minister Modi's speech and address to the Indian diaspora?
I think it was the usual pitch he's making. This man is a salesman at the end of the day. He's selling India, the idea of India, the market of India, and what India brings to the table. And in a sense, he's preaching to the converted because the Indian Americans know the Indian potential. But for the first time, you have an Indian Prime Minister actually going the extra mile to tell them, to convince them, you know. And I think that's what appeals to those people over there. Somebody speaking the kind of language that they speak, and giving you the idea of India and its potential.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's the pitch he made. And hopefully this has been read also by the American establishment, which paves the way for the meeting with Trump later in the day.
And how significant are Modi's comments about surgical strikes, especially considering it comes, moments before he's about to meet President Trump?
I think you have to see this in the context of the White House briefing that happened yesterday. There were two interesting points made. One was on new initiatives in combating terrorism, which implies that terrorism is going to be a major item on the agenda tomorrow, whether on the one-on-one talks with President Trump or during the delegation level. There was also this reference to defense cooperation and the fact that within less than 6 months of the Trump taking over, you already have an agreement on the sale of Guardian drones. So this is not the final word on the contract. Obviously, that will take negotiation. But the very fact that it's been concluded gives you a sense of which direction this relationship could go.
This time, the diaspora that we saw, when you compare it to Prime Minister Modi's previous visits, it wasn't as large as you would expect it. Does that suggest to you that, this was at least Modi's trying to maintain a low profile and not ruffle any feathers?
Well, that's one way of looking at it. But then when you look at it in another angle, I mean, how many times can you do a Madison Square event, every time you go to the US? At some point, people will start comparing. You had 30,000 people then, you got only 10,000 now. So I think at some point you calibrate, you look at whom you are appealing to, and you angle your pitch to those kind of people.
And what did you make of Prime Minister Modi's meeting with the top American CEOs, keeping in mind that a lot of these American CEOs have been very critical of Donald Trump's policies?
Well, I think the Prime Minister is basically pitching the idea of India. It's not that the CEOs don't know. They've been here to India scores of times. Some of them have plans to open establishments here, factories here. So in that sense, it's a good familiarization exercise. We have major structural reforms that have been carried out. The bankruptcy code came last year. GST is launching at midnight on June 31st. And these are big takeaways for any company that's seeking to invest in India. There is some uncertainty about what it will actually bring, but I think the very fact that it unifies India into one common market is a huge draw for any CEO from overseas looking at India.